Omar, glad to have you here.
Thanks, Ziad.
Welcome to Money Talks.
Glad to be here.
My pleasure. Omar, you have an incredibly diverse background from medicine to business, theology, the arts, and more. If you could share with us how you pursue excellence across so many different endeavors and what principles really guide you.
That's a great question, Ziad, and it causes a lot of people heartache because in today's society, people tend to gravitate towards experts that go deep but not very wide. I've tried that and it frustrated me, and I think that's because so many of us have diverse interests and increased capacity to handle those and go deep in all of those. We go back to hundreds of years ago, where during the Renaissance we called them Renaissance men
Yeah,
that were attorneys and theologians and physicians. So I have passions for all these endeavors, and I feel like I can manage them all very well. What drives me is excellence, it's vision, it's changing the world. I mean, it's what FPC is about.
exactly.
I think those who are just trying to stay comfortable and focus on their silos and put blinders on aren't really doing the world any good. But I feel like we're here to do the world good.
Absolutely. I cannot agree with you more. Uh, what originally drew you to FPC? I mean, how do you see your role in promoting the policies that enable entrepreneurship, economic growth, and wealth creation?
So I'd never heard of the FPC before. And our friend, Catherine Bazemore, invited me to check it out.
She was a speaker at one of our events.
She was. And she invited me to join her on the panel. And that's where you and I first met and hit it off. And then you invited me to come on board with you on the FPC, and I didn't hesitate because I love what you stand for. I love your vision, your passion, your conservative ideologies, because I think that the way the world is going, and I think there's an agenda, a globalist agenda, that is
Absolutely.
completely destroying society and destroying the economics of the world in order to control. But I feel like what we're doing at FPC is basically going head to head with these powers so that we can actually fight them and do something differently.
I really appreciate your feedback, Omar. As both a physician and entrepreneur, what innovative solutions do you see on the horizon to make healthcare more personalized, affordable, and empowering for consumers?
That's an easy question to answer, but it's a hard question to engage on. So, healthcare in the United States is broken. In fact, I think healthcare is broken all over the world because we've allowed third parties to interject themselves between physicians and patients. My grandfather, who was a physician
Yeah,
in Lebanon years ago, told me medicine is a message of hope and healing, and healthcare is a business, and never confuse the two. And I think here in America, we've confused the two. And what it's done is it's profited certain industries, but it's damaged the physicians and it's damaged the patients and those who provide care and those who receive it. So, what do I see on the horizon? We're necessarily going to need to separate from that type of engagement. And there's going to be a lot of resistance to do so. Initially, it's going to be a separation where people are going to have to come out of pocket, and insurance isn't going to pay for
absolutely.
that.
Hmm.
But as technology develops and as those types of practices grow, we have democratization and demonetization where the costs come down and it becomes more ubiquitous and easier to access for the common man.
I totally agree with you. The same way that democratization of capital is happening, democratization of healthcare, that's the future.
Can I also interject?
Of
You asked
course.
about personalized medicine. That's another important part because in traditional medicine in the United States, we're very reactive, symptom based, and also we manage chronic disease. As physicians, we're trained to be experts in the management of chronic disease, and we're very good at it.
Hmm.
But what we don't do is reverse chronic disease, focus on health instead of symptoms. So I think that's also another pivot that we're making now where we're focusing on longevity We're focusing on the reversal of hypertension and cancer and diabetes, the reversal of chronic disease, and human performance optimization. Because as we increase our lifespans, we want to maintain our health and be off of medications and be just as energetic and vivacious as we were when we were 35, when we hit 70. And I think it's possible, especially with all the genomics and the AI and so many other things.
What is it going to take to get there? Money, commitment, change of attitude, change of bad habits.
That's the biggest part is healthcare. People don't realize it. They think that their health is primarily genetic and in the hands of physicians, but 50% of our healthcare, of our health, our personal health, is in our own hand. It's our lifestyle and the choices we make day to day. 20% our environment, the toxins we breathe and drink and eat, and 20% genetics. So of that 20%, some of that's modifiable. Some genes can be turned on and off like a light switch based on the choices we make. And then only 10%, we say, is based on what we as physicians do. And most of that is surgical when we cut out bad disease.
Yeah. You've commented on the concerning the politics of scientific discourse. How can professionals push back against false narratives and renew a rigorous open inquiry?
Boy, that's gotten to be a huge problem these past couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Especially in the COVID pandemic, where those who have alternative thoughts, rightfully so, have been silenced, threatened, charged criminally. One actually went to prison. Several have lost privileges in the hospitals and even state licensure and board certification. So how do we maintain scientific inquiry and freedom of speech and thought that helps advance science for the good of the population? I think we're going to have to redefine what freedom actually means, because I feel like the left and those that are in control feel freedom only stretches as far as it does them good. I used to work for a large pharmaceutical company based here in New York for a few years, and I saw with my own eyes that scientific inquiry studies went as far as those studies proved the point of the medicines that the pharmaceutical company represented. But if they went against it, or if they were showing negative effects, most of the time, those studies were killed or put on the side. But only those that supported the drugs. And they were modified, some of them. So it caused me to lose a lot of trust in the scientific process here in the United States, because I felt like it was driven more by capitalistic endeavors rather than true scientific inquiry. And that needs to be separate.
Absolutely.
Scientific inquiry needs to be purely scientific without any effects of profit motivators. Otherwise, we end up with results we can't trust.
What's your definition of freedom?
Well, that's a great question. So, because I've addressed that, some people think of freedom as doing whatever I want, anytime I want, with anyone I want. That's anarchy.
Yep.
That's not freedom. Freedom is the ability to chase our dreams under a certain set of laws or under a just authority of government that we can trust, with the freedom to live our lives the way we want, worship who we want, speak what we want, and live how we want, and do what we want, and keep what we make, for the most part. I think this is a controversial subject. I think a certain amount of taxation in a society is required. One that's actually taxation that's actually just. Fair tax, I think, is a great idea. 15, even 20% maybe, but not more than that. I think if we add everything up, we're taxed 60% or higher. But freedom, I think, is necessarily under authority. The removal of all authority and all government, that's anarchy. And we don't want that.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how free is the United States today?
We want to believe that we're at a 10.
Far from.
I think we're at a 3. I don't know what your thoughts are.
My thoughts are we're at a 2.
Yeah.
Look, listen, your optimism about the future is really inspiring, Omar. What emerging technologies or societal trends give you hope, and how can we share that abundant mindset?
Humans are resilient, but we have to switch to an abundance mindset Most humans, 95% of us, I think, work on a scarcity mindset. And that comes from fear and causes rage and criminality and scurrying around to get what we can for ourselves. But I think if we can shift that, we have to be able to trust our government. We have to be able to trust those that we're in relationship with societally. So I think it's going to take a major earthquake to shift that in order to get to the point of abundance. But I think there is abundance. Like Peter Diamandis says, we live in the greatest time in history with so much abundance, so much opportunity, so much technology. And technology can be scary if it's not controlled. I mean, this AI, we remember the Terminator back in the
Yeah,
80s, and we thought it was just, science fiction. Now we see it's actually reality, where AI can actually, at some point, even turn against humanity.
very destructive.
So how do we control it, and who controls it, and how do we utilize it for our benefit rather than our detriment? So I think the future is very bright, but I think it's going to take very judicious and strategic engagement that is driven by those who actually want to benefit others instead of just themselves. We all benefit, but we have to get others focused rather than just how can I get what I want out of this and screw everybody else. That's not going to work.
Omar, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Same here, Ziad. Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
And we have a long road ahead of us.
We do.
Thank
And a
you for your
profitable
time.
one.
Thank you.
So thank you.